Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on New Age Career Pathways in Law. My name is Chetna Lal, and I head the Industry Interface and Career Advancement team at BITS Law School. Today, we are going to discuss about the currently trending career pathway or trending practice areas and how it becomes imperative to teach our students new age subjects in order to equip them and prepare them to join the industry. Our mission at BITS Law School is to build ethical, tech-savvy, and resilient future leaders. And how do we do this? So we blend 4 factors in our teaching pedagogy. The 4 factors are core elements of legal education, ethical values, real world practicality, and the new age subjects. At BITS Law School, we have introduced a program called Readiness at Workplace. Under this, in addition to teaching practice-based curriculum, we also do a lot of skill enhancing workshops and soft skill training programs, and do a lot of mentoring, and we provide right kind of internships to our students. When I say that we offer new age subjects to our students, I mean to say that we have taken into consideration the demand in the legal industry for these specializations. And after giving a lot of consideration to the current trends and the future trends, we have introduced 4 specializations. These 4 specializations are corporate and financial laws, entertainment and media law, entertainment and sports law, technology and media law, and alternative dispute resolution and mediation. These specializations are curated, keeping in mind the current trends and the future trends. To give you insights into these specializations, we have invited expert speakers today to talk about these specializations in today's webinar. So first, I would like to introduce Ms. Neeti Sachdeva. She is the secretary and she's Secretary General and Registrar at Mumbai Center for International Arbitration. So welcome, Neeti, and we are really privileged to have you with us today.
Thank you,
our next speaker is Ms. Riddhi Tulsian, and she is a senior associate with AZB and Partners, and she's an expert in data privacy, technology law, and IP. So welcome, Riddhi, and we are grateful to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our third speaker is Mr. Shashank Ugrankar. Shashank is senior principal associate with Cyril Amachan Mangaldas, and his practice area includes corporate law and mergers and acquisition. So thank you, Shashank, and welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah. Now, before we start our discussion, I would like to tell the audience that we are going to do question and answers at the end of the discussion. So you can post your questions in the chat box, and we'll take up the questions at the end. So let me start asking a question to Ms. Neeti. So Neeti, if you could tell us about your own journey as a law student and what were the driving factors behind choosing ADR and arbitration as your career.
Thanks, Chetna. Thank you so much, firstly, for inviting. And I'm very happy that rather than choosing somebody who practices arbitration in a law firm, you thought of inviting an institution, because I think it's very different of what we do. And as you have told the students, always very happy to answer any questions that they would have beyond to what we are discussing. So just to talk about my journey as a law student, let me begin from the beginning, as they say. I was never to be a lawyer. I was an engineering student preparing for my engineering, and 11th, 12th had my sciences. But as the luck would have it, I couldn't clear any decent, I would say, engineering college where parents thought that there's no point going to just any engineering college. So think of doing something else. And I thought to myself that, how the entrance exams all happen at the same time, be it law, be it engineering or medicine. And by the the results came in, all the entrance exams had actually gotten over. So it was about wasting another year, reappearing or just thinking of something else. As I take most of my decisions, I think in a bit more erratic fashion and let the life fix its own course. Somebody just happened to mention to me, why don't you do law? I was like, yeah, please, I'll do it. Tell me how. So there was this new university coming up in Delhi, where Delhi had the first 5-year course of IP University. The university college was starting, which is a Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. And they said, because the Bar Council mandate has come in late, their entrance exams are late, it's in a week's time, you can still apply. And as luck would have it, I got through, and then they say as rest is history. But as a law student, as you can well imagine, somebody who had not thought of it, and because it was a new university, we were literally the guinea pigs, which was both good and bad. Good because we could charter the things that we wanted to do. Bad because, of course, we didn't really have seniors to guide us, to help us, as to how and what we should do. So one example, I don't know if others have heard me before, I always narrate to students, and I will do it, is that first semester of our law school, we heard or overheard somewhere that you have a Jessup's moot which happens. As very enthusiastic first batch students, we said we'll go for Jessup moot, without realizing that Jessup moot is one of the most where you discuss about public international law. Forget about public international law. We didn't even know what law was. The first semester is all about learning your pol science, history, and subjects like this. So me and my colleague, one of my students, fellow students, we went to High Court, literally went to High Court, hold out of a lawyer and begged and plead, can you please tell us how to draft a memorial? And that lawyer, in with due respect, taught us or told us how to draft it as how you would draft a plaint in a court and not like a memorial. And I can tell you this, that it was most embarrassing moment of my life till date, that me and my friend, we stood up in a Jessup moot in Delhi, and the judges thrashed us. That's the word. All I spoke for next 5 minutes was, I am sorry, I do not know. I'll get back to you. My colleague will answer it. What is a Corfu Channel case? We had no clue. But I think it was a very good learning experience to say that life could not, as a mooter or as a student, go worse than this. Fast forward, 4th year, we heard of the Vienna moot, which is an arbitration moot, and there was no qualifying rounds in India. So the good thing was that you could directly go to Vienna, right? So we told our university that we're going to go to Vienna. They said, very well, fund yourself, do yourself. We are not funding. I still remember we didn't even have an arbitration book. Me and my friend, we shipped the book from London on arbitration. We sat through it 4 months. I don't think I did anything but read through arbitration all by ourselves, because we were not taught arbitration in university still. We were in 5th year. It was a lovely experience to go to Vienna. We were one of the finalists. And I think that was when I decided that I want to do arbitration or something to do with ADR. I like the subject, and there's a lot of scope in there after I met people in Vienna. So that's my journey as a law student and getting into arbitration.
Wonderful. Shashank, I'll come to you next. And we would also like to understand from you your journey as a law student, and in which year exactly did you decide to become a corporate lawyer?
So thanks for having me, Krishna. Now to address the question, my story flows in similar vein to what Neeti's is. I started off as an engineering student. I'd done my sciences back in 11th and 12th, and I did my CVs, etc. for engineering. Then I was like, at some point something switched, flipped in me, and I was like, the system is so dependent on rote learning. Is that what is going to take me through the better part of my life, where I'm just going to study through a textbook and reproduce the things we produce, or like do engineering and probably take my talent or my skills elsewhere and then apply them, and not really in India per se. Or also, sometimes there were like doubts about how's this going to go down, right? Like, will I just be a banker at the end of it, to be fairly honest? So at that point, I was like, and as an individual, I am somebody who likes to be challenged, or likes to have some sort of skin in the game. And that's the reason why I moved towards law. And interestingly, corporate law is something that came up much, much later in my career. It's not something that happened straight off the bat in law school. As a first generation lawyer, I had no idea what is it that I wanted to do or specialize in terms of the law, right? I mean, my preference would have been to do something which was more policy oriented because I really liked research as a subject. But then things took their own course, and I ended up joining Silla Amatan Mangaldas straight out of college. It was Amatan Mangaldas back then. And the first 18 to 20 months of working with the firm was spent doing finance and banking related transactions. And then one fine day, my boss at that time, who was the partner I was reporting to, thought that, why don't you just try your hand at corporate? I mean, I know you're settled in banking and finance, but one should know corporate as well, which flows with banking and finance. So that way, one thing led to another. I did start corporate from there and then just continued. So that's my journey.
Okay, lovely. Titi, we would also like to understand from you about your own journey as a law student, and then what prompted you to, take this specialization of technology law and IP.
Thanks, Shena, for the introduction, and very happy to be here. So I actually was always intent on doing law, unlike Neeti and Shashank had no engineering background. So, but was pretty lost. Like I was at NMIMS, which was also a pretty new college. We were the second batch, and I just heard of one of my seniors in the third year pursuing IP, and got interested in it, read a lot of books, and actually ended up doing quite a bit of internships. I think most of my internships in college were IP internships, wherein I took did trademark prosecution, media entertainment. So tried out a different, did a law firm, worked at a company, which was a production house, worked at a newspaper publishing company to see the other side of media. So just like a varied bunch of internships, and realized that that's something that I am interested in. And I started off doing core media and entertainment in my career, but I realized that it's just TMT is a branch that kind of flows in everywhere. So ended up doing a little bit of trademark prosecution, IP advisories, and then finally branched out into doing technology and data privacy, because that's what's upcoming, and everyone has an internet profile or a website or a app which involves a lot of IP issues, but also tech and data issues. So just like a lot of internships, and that gained my interest in the field.
Lovely, such inspiring stories to hear from you. So now let me ask Neeti, if a student decides to take up arbitration or alternative dispute resolution as a career, or wants to pursue that as a career, then what kind of skill set one should have? And what are the career opportunities for them if they join arbitration or mediation?
So there are two different questions. I'll answer them separately. One is that what career options you have. So I'll first talk about the career options and then skill sets for each of them that you may want to develop, right? See, in the ADR field right now, I would say broadly, you have option of being a counsel. So if you do not see yourself going to the court, but you want to do a purely counsel practice only in arbitrations, there's definitely a lot of scope. In fact, as we speak today, we're so glad that finally a long standing dream of what Mr. Pali S. Nariman also had to set up an arbitration bar of India is being launched today in the evening. So the idea is to encourage people now to do arbitration practice purely as a counsel rather than doing both as a court and arbitration. Of course, it's just a first step and will go a long way, but that's one career path you can have. Second, of course, as an arbitrator, one can have a completely, entirely career built out as an arbitrator, but that is not when you just graduate. I would say give yourself at least about 10 to 12 years in the counsel practice, in the litigation field, doing arbitration, and then think of having a career as an arbitration. Third, of course, I would think is the role that I play, which is in an institution. As you know that now in India, the institutions are growing. We have 40 plus arbitral institutions. And the institutions require you to have an administrator who will administer disputes, and also play a very marketing role. So if you have a skill set which is not only legal, but you think that you are somebody who can take up marketing role as well, then joining an institution is a great opportunity as well, which did not exist, I would say, about a decade back. The institutions were very limited. That scope wasn't there. And fourth, of course, is, somebody who imparts knowledge in the field of arbitration. So being it a teacher or, freelancing also in the field of teaching the skill sets of arbitration. So those would, I say, broadly be the four career options you can have around, I would say arbitration, but broadly these can be done for mediation as well, either of them. When it comes to skill set, I think there are two major skill set in being a lawyer. I don't know if my other panelists, Riddhi and Shashank, will agree with me, but they're always too broad. One is your oral advocacy, and the second is to be able to draft properly, right? Your thought patterns have to be drafted properly. It's rather unfortunate that when we talk to our super seniors, as we call them, they say that the court practice, when it started about 50 years back or 60 years back, the petitions in the court used to be 6-page, 7-page. Today, there are 100 pages, 120 pages, because it is difficult to write less. And that's the problem. So drafting your petitions, plain statement of claim, defense, witness statements, that's an important skill set. And of course, oral advocacy, if you are in the field of dispute resolution, you need to be able to articulate what you want to convey to the judge or to the arbitrator. In terms of law, I know, of course, that CPC doesn't apply to arbitration at all. Even our act says so. But ultimately, please remember that arbitration or mediation is just one of the other way of dispute resolution. So even the basic knowledge of procedure needs to be aware of. Evidence Act and Contract Act are two acts that you should have the back of your hand. And trial practice. Arbitration is not an appellate jurisdiction. It is not like what you practice in high courts is to go and argue. Arbitration is all about trial practice, not mediation. It's a very different skill set that you require for mediation. But I would say that if you're looking at pursuing a career as an arbitration counsel, get yourself hands dirty in the trial courts, district courts, do cross examinations to learn that skill. Even as an arbitrator, it is very, very important. So that would be broadly the skill sets. And I would say that, it may sound like a sermon, but something which has helped me is that my parents only taught me one thing, that whatever you decide to do, put your heart in there. If you don't have your heart in there, you will not be dedicated and you will not achieve. It'll ultimately come to you and find you a path, maybe not in your first year, second year, maybe it takes 10 years. But if you just keep at it, it'll ultimately happen.
My next question is to Shashank. Shashank, tell me, when students come to me, many of them say that they want to become corporate lawyer. And I have heard that, when you're doing a cross-border transaction, it becomes very challenging for a corporate lawyer. So how do you see the challenges and what do you do to strike a balance, in that, like a work-life balance?
So, Chekna, let's start from the fact that I see practicing corporate law in a firm or elsewhere, whether it's your own practice or whether it's a firm or however else, as just a plethora of opportunities, if I could say it that way, as opposed to challenges, right? I mean, let's think about it. Let's go through it point by point. One gets the opportunity to work with legal minds across India as well as outside in a cross-border transaction, for example. You have the opportunity of working with colleagues and luminaries within the firm, without the firm as well. Correct? Now, that brings with it the opportunity to also keep upskilling throughout the process. You learn about Indian laws, you learn about laws of foreign jurisdictions, which one may have to take into consideration or factor in while preparing transaction documents. And you're aware of a lot of other cultural sensitivities while negotiating or dealing with clients in cross-border transactions as well. So I think it's purely opportunities throughout. And okay, while I'll make a full and fair disclosure of the fact that the first 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 years of your life are generally slogging, there are some great times. I mean, the thrill of closing a transaction of a certain value, or, having worked with somebody and adding on to your experience because, there's something which you never would have considered, right? I mean, look, as transaction lawyers, and I don't know whether Riddhi and you can attest to this. Once you go down a particular path, or once you have an argument set out in your head, right, you will find tooth and nail to ensure that you have you have come to that same conclusion that you see as the best outcome for your client, maybe what you thought. But that may necessarily not be true. So one has to be very attentive, has to listen and respond, right? So, I mean, that is, I think, what is the thrill in this entire game. That is what adds to your experience. That is what takes you places or allows you to be flexible, be a little more versatile, be on your toes in these. And I think that's what one needs to really focus on, concentrate on, in terms of developing as a general skill set, not only being in a position where one has read the law, understood the law, placed their approaches in one bucket, but also to think about what are the potential outcomes and how does one solve for those. To hear the counterparty, understand their perspective, their views, and what they seek. And I think it's a marriage of all of those things which helps one, deal with transactions in a better manner. And I think in terms of your question on work-life balance, etc., which is the second part, I think it's about it flows from this particular concept, right? Once you're able to marry different concepts which we just discussed, like hearing the other person out, being able to do your own work in a timely fashion, and solve for problems at all times, is when the transaction flow in itself becomes efficient, and that gives you some time for yourself to do what you want to do, or upskill differently, or read, maybe go out, whatever. So I think work-life balance is pretty much about towing a line, finding the balance, and it's not like a one glove fits all type solution. I mean, I think each of these budding associates out here at some point will have to figure out for themselves what works, what doesn't.
Chetna, with your permission, can I just come in here and probably as a comment and a question to my fellow panelists as well? I think this work-life balance quotation, unquote, as I put it, is there, has just become too much of a, mental thing where the young generation now talks about, do I have a work-life balance? As controversial as I may sound today, and I don't mind it really, I think it's a very big misnomer. We meet, I'm not talking about corporate law. I've never practiced corporate law, so I'm not going to comment on it. But I'm in the dispute resolution, and I can tell you this, that you meet, people think about and look up to those 10, 15 seniors in the High Court and the Supreme Court and say that I'm starting my journey. I want to be like X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Has anybody actually sat down and seen their life even today? They have been practicing for probably 40 years in the court. Mr. Nariman, who had practiced for more than 50 years in the court, his daily life was getting up at 5 in the morning, going through the judgments which came out of the Supreme Court and the High Court in the last day, skimming through them, then preparing his brief for the next day, going to the court and be present in the court till 5, come back, briefing with the other matters because he's briefed, so there will be lawyers who come and do it. Where is the work-life balance? I'm sorry, but if you're looking at making and being as one of those seniors, if you're looking at making and being yourself like Shashank or Riddhi, just you have to forget about a work-life balance. I'm being very honest with it. We are in a service industry. We are in an industry just like, so my sister's a doctor and we very well share notes, right? She's a surgeon. And she tells the same thing to her children. We are in a service industry. A client is not going to ask us that, Neeti, are you on a holiday? Can a dispute arise in my life? Or Neeti, I'm on a holiday. Will you please do a surgery? You're providing a service. You are not opening a shop or a grocery store where you say, my groceries are available morning 9 to 5. Come and buy the groceries. Else my shop is shut. Go to some other shop, right? So if you really want to make your career in the field of law, I would say, getting a degree is the easiest. Please forget about next 10 years of your life and dedicate it to it. If you're not ready to do it, then I don't think this is a profession where you really should be thinking of, you can be a mediocre, as I say, You can think about earning a decent salary, but do not think of it. I want to become a partner of a SAM or a CAM or an AZB or a trilegal in 10 years, but I want to have a work-life balance. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. I don't know if Riddhi and Shashank agree with me or not, but that's a very radical thought that I always had.
What are your views, Riddhi?
No, I definitely agree with Neeti. I mean, I feel like it's just been very, people have just created this whole notion around having a work-life balance. I feel like it's a very personal thing. If you want to be successful, if you want to have that kind of, reach that partner level, reach that kind of success, do big deals, like close those deals. Sometimes your deadlines are a week or 2 weeks where you decide that that your client wants to close a deal, they want to launch something new, they want to invest somewhere. So it's not your call. And if you're not able to deliver on that, then unfortunately you'll not climb that ladder. You'll be there in the team, but you'll definitely not be one of the people working on the most successful deals, because your partner can't rely on you, your firm can't rely on you, or your client can't rely on you. So that reliability of being there, even if I'm on a leave, unfortunately, I am available if something urgent is there, because that's the need of how we work. If definitely, because we work with a lot of lawyers, and everyone in the team is ready to help each other out because we go through everything. But if it's necessary, it is necessary, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but that's what it is about this job.
Yeah,
So, Chetna,
absolutely.
let
I
me just
agree. Sorry, go ahead.
answer it. Let me just answer it this way. I've been in the firm for 10 years and I haven't been able to strike a work-life balance. So,
Absolutely, I agree with all the speakers. I would say it's all about the priorities, and then what kind of goal you've set for yourself. It all depends on on the goals that you have set for yourself. You can choose to relax and have a work-life balance, but be prepared to slog at least for 10 years if you have that kind of a goal for yourself.
no,
Yeah.
as in, I mean, to put it in a different way, Chetna, if I may, there's nothing wrong in expecting a work-life balance, right? Everyone can expect a work-life balance, but I mean, in your career, when you have the better part of your life ahead of you, I mean, hard work, working smart are things that you need to really put together to be able to get some time for yourself. And when you do get that some time for yourself, yes, I'm not saying that don't wind down, don't relax, don't, you know, enjoy the good moments in life, or maybe just go out and get a drink with friends. But one needs to also be very cognizant of the fact that to go up in the ladder, and I mean, put this back out to Neeti as well as Vicky, one needs to constantly keep upskilling, one needs to be aware, one needs to be on the ball. Because law and subject is something where if you're behind the ball, you don't know what are the latest amendments that have come out, you don't know what are the trends in the market, or you don't know how other competitors, other deals, other clients are operating, you're not going to be able to be successful. You need to be alive to the situation at all.
Sure.
Let me
Uh,
say, Chetna, I don't want to scare them off and say that there is no work-life balance. I go on holidays. I'm sure so do Shashank and Riddhi as well. We plan it out, do it. But the idea is that you're not getting into a 9 to 5 job. That you should be clear of, right?
yeah.
But you will
Yeah.
have enough time to, banter with your colleagues as well, go out for evening drinks with them, coffees with them, crib about your bosses as well. All that will also happen as a part of your growing journey. But it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Correct.
Also, the
Uh,
success will eventually drive you. Like that's what's keeping you on track. So
True.
it's not something that will feel bad. The money, the success, the kind of work you do, the people you work with is going to be the driving factor.
yeah. Okay. So my next question is to Riddhi. And Riddhi, tell me, what are your views on future of technology law and IP? I mean, and what kind of internships will help our students if they choose to follow this career path?
I really don't think that anyone needs like a course on this, but I feel like AI and your chat GPTs and your chat bots and your everything's like really taken over. There's a lot of technology that's being developed. A lot of the companies that we work with always have some type of platform, app, something that is going on. Every business is now shifting to a approach of involving some kind of technology for ease of business, be it a manufacturing business or it's an online business. So I feel like the scope and the growth, there's immense growth in this space, even from, if you look at it from a corporate perspective, if you look at it from a disputes perspective, there's a huge growth in IP disputes on who's using what copyright and who has the ownership, or from a fact that there is so much policy being developed around it in the field of data, as well as AI, as well as bringing parity to the world norm around it, because it's not restricted. It's no more a territorial law, because people are using AI across the world or platforms across the world. So there is a lot of scope for disputes even internationally and nationally, or policy work. Like we've seen a growth in, like, India's recently enacted the Digital Data Protection Act, which is still to come into force, but we can see so many. Currently I've seen like so many foreign companies who have subsidiaries in India wanting to comply, all Indian companies wanting to get a head start and comply, because the fines are immense. Like if we see in Europe, the fines for a data breach or a IP breach is immense on the big tech companies like Google, Amazon, Meta. So everyone wants to get a head start on it, and compliance, advisory, disputes, everything's taking a huge like growth in this industry. And secondly, on the internships bit, I think everywhere, anywhere, like you could get hold of a tech company, you could get hold of a media production house, a newspaper, a publisher, a law firm which does either of IP prosecution, it could be your trademark, patent, and design prosecution, which is a completely different field, to a transactional lawyer who really just negotiates and drafts IP licenses, media agreements on a day-to-day basis, or a law firm which does advisories on all aspects of media, entertainment, IP, technology, data. So there is almost all law firms nowadays which has a team which does this, and a lot of in-house companies which do look for interns, because at the end of the day, if you're a good intern, you are given a bunch of work to do and not just told to sit and read the law. If we can rely on you, then please come in, work hard, and definitely you could expect like get a job soon. So yeah, there's no dearth of internships that you could do. Like there's just plenty of opportunities out there.
Okay. So we have discussed about the specializations and the new age subjects, and the contemporary, career opportunities, the challenges and work-life balance. Now, can you think of, someone who can try an offbeat profession with these kind of specialization? I mean, any of the speakers can volunteer to answer this question.
Happy to go with it. I think in the ADR field, for sure, being a part of an institution in itself is very offbeat, right? You're not purely doing a legal work. I don't represent clients on an everyday basis. Sorry. But there is an application of law. We get new matters. I can tell you there's always something new, interesting, which comes up. And we put our head together again to see that how do we apply our rules? What do we do? Marketing again, right? Nowadays, the roles in the law firms have also changed a lot. There are people who just want to be out there to market the skills and to say what the firms are doing. So it's good to know the legal knowledge of the subject. But if you think that you're somebody who, a lot of people pursue a law and an MBA as well. That's a very hot selling course, even internationally. And the idea is that somebody has to build up the practices as well. So that's again a very offbeat thing that one can think of. And I think one combination which has always worked in the legal circle has also been your law and CS, right? A lot of in-house companies still require your compliances needs to be done, and the law keeps changing around it as well. So those are all different things that one can think of till the time you put your head and decide, I think just graduating out of a law school is a bit early to decide onto it. Give yourself some more time to see what you have an interest in, and then build upon it and keep yourself upscaling.
Uh, Anybody else like? Okay.
Yeah, Chitna, let me take a shot at this. One thing that we could actually think of like nuclear initially sort of suggested one could, assist or like, help bring up the next crop of lawyers by taking something as a professor or somebody who have an institute who teaches or imparts these skills, right? That's one. The other is, being a resolution professional is something one can think of from a corporate perspective. Important to know your insolvency laws, your corporate laws at the time to be able to do this. So that is one of that is available. One could also consider policy, to be fairly honest.
Okay. So now we have discussed about the new age subjects and currently trending practice areas. Can you anticipate what will be the future? I mean, what kind of trends will be there in future in this legal space?
So just to like basically like what we're taught in law schools is to read the law. So honestly, like with the AI and the with the kind of tech that is there, no one wants to know what's written in books. There's a lot of you'll have to apply like even now, like what is the application of the law is what's important. How you can think of a clever solution around uh, kind of compliance work, kind of like something that's uh, thorn in the way of your client. So that kind of like, thinking and trying to challenge yourself is something that you'll have to do and not just like pick up what's written in the book and paste it out in a note. You're not getting paid to do that, unfortunately.
Nobody
Can I
had.
say this?
Yeah, yeah.
Chitra, again, I said my comments are of course reserved in the field of dispute resolution itself. So I can tell you when we were in the law college, at that time, the Manupatra and your LexisNexis has just started to come into India. Uh, what we used to do our research was still from reading AIRs, SCRs and all of it, read through them and learn it. Of course, Manupatra and LexisNexis made our lives easy. What we could probably do in 6 hours got reduced to about 3 hours. But then there was also a lot more data to process, right? So if you were diligent, you would still end up spending probably now 8 hours because you could read through a lot more judgments, a lot through high courts, which you didn't at the time earlier. So people think about it that with chat GPT coming, AI coming, is it gonna take away the jobs? I don't think so. I think it's just another tool which is gonna help you in maybe reducing your time or having more information at your hand. But if chat GPT could just do everything, then why do we need to have us, right? I mean, and also please remember, be it chat GPT, AI, or any of these platforms, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's as much data as being put in there is what the data is coming out. In the field of arbitration, it's a huge cry, right? There was somebody asked in chat GPT, can you please recommend me a good female lawyer, a female arbitrator? And up came the name of Cavender Bull. He's not even a female, right? He's somebody who practices in Singapore, is a counsel and is an arbitrator. Somebody will have to still check those responses. You can't just sit there and say, this is what ChatGPT says, and I'm happy with it. We don't like, I'm sure Riddhi Shashank will agree that if we give our juniors any research work, they go Google it and come back to us, we know of it. That's not the complete story. So forget about these things taking it up. It's not an easy way around. You still have to go through the hard way of looking through your SCRs, AIRs, looking through your Manupatras and LexisNexis. And that is what will distinguish you from any other lawyer.
Okay.
So, Chetan, if I may,
Yeah,
with your
we
permission.
would like to understand from you your experience or inspiring case study that you have come
No,
across.
I mean, before we get on to the case study, Chetna, I mean, to Niti's point, I completely agree. There is no substitute and there is never ever going to be a substitute to reading the law. And once you've read the law, you need to actually apply it to your case facts or your fact pattern, right? There is no other way to solve for it. So you can tell ChatGPT what you want, but you will still have to read it and you will still have to apply your mind. That is essential, and it's a fundamental tenet of the practice of law. There is no easy way out of this. And in addition to just law being a subject where one reads the law and one applies the law, there's a lot more human emotion involved and a lot more, handling of client expectations and stakeholder management. And that there is no chat GPT that is going to be able to do for you. So, I mean, I think that just takes from Niti's point and builds on to that.
So any inspiring story or any experience of your own for us
In
to
what sense, in what sense, Shikna? I mean, there have been a lot of experiences and a lot of stories throughout the last 10 years. And I mean, I think few of them that come to mind is where, we've had Mr. Shroff actually tell us in multiple deals, etc., that, you guys need to be upskilled, you guys need to be alive to the deals and the transactions that you're doing. And we've had guidance from Sir about the fact that, while things look a lot mechanical from the outside, right? Everybody thinks that, hey, you're in a corporate law, you're in a firm, you're doing corporate law. What is it all about, right? You have one templatized transaction document which you're just going to keep replicating time and time again, maybe just switching in certain clauses for commercials and switching out certain clauses. But Sir has always told us that it's not necessarily about the clauses, the documents that you're doing, or the items that you're taking into account, or replication. It's always about upskilling, staying on your toes, being aware of what are your clients' needs, how do you deliver best to the client, how do you solve for problems. It's about being mentally very agile at all times, irrespective of the fact that you're drafting similar type of transaction documents throughout the course of your career. That is something that one really needs to take care of. Anecdotes and incidents are a lot, but the core underlying theme in all of these is the fact that mental agility is something which is really essential to go up the field, up the ladder in the practice of law. And that is what clients really value. That is what you would bring to the table as your value added point, as opposed to doing it mechanically, just thinking about it as a laser straight line.
So Chetna, I mean, I'm sure Riddhi and Shashank have very many examples of from their seniors. I just had a very pleasure, I would say, and an experience that I was sitting next to Zia Modi. We were in ICA, Hong Kong for something, and it was a very informal dinner. And we were all narrating our stories and all. And what was very inspiring for me was that, we all know the lineage that she comes from, the lineage that she has had. Her father was one of the leading, practicing advocates in the court. And she said this, that when she started off in her career, and I don't know how many of people are aware of it, but she started off as a disputes lawyer and then went on to become one of the topmost corporate lawyers in India that we have seen. So it clearly shows that you can start your journey, you can switch your journey whenever, but you have your 100%. She was saying that, at times when I didn't have matters, she could have very well assisted her father. There was again no dearth of matters. But her father told her that if you really want to learn the court craft and learn how to practice in the courts, just go and sit in the court. Sit in the court for a week, for 10 days, for a month, and just keep making your notes. Go to different courts and just learn how the judges are asking questions. How do you think one lawyer is answering the question from the other lawyer, and what is amenable to the judge, right? So these are the inspiring stories that you hear of people and see that I think it's very myopic again for students to come up and they always say, oh, which field should I choose where I will have the maximum salary? I'm sorry, if that is the approach to pick up a field, you will never have good salary in your career. You need to think that what you are cut out for. I thought of that I could do corporate law. I sat for it for a week and I said, this is not cut for me. This is not where my heart belongs or I could do. I'm happy to just go and argue a matter. I'm happy to build something up new, put my heart into that, right? Even if it is not paying. So I don't think you can choose your career on the basis of what salaries are higher in what field, but you need to go the other way around.
Lovely. And here, even I remember an incident. I think 2 months back, I had met Zia Modi in a small conference. And the next day, I was pleasantly surprised to get an email from her saying that it was lovely meeting you at the conference and we'll be in touch. So that was a gesture that I would remember for my lifetime. And that's what I think students also need to learn, that these kind of emails and how they help us to network, and it was a good learning for me too.
Sorry, I seem to be speaking the most, but can I just say one more thing here?
Yeah.
I don't know if again Riddhi and Shashank agree with me on this or not, but one of the worst things to receive from a student is a grammatically wrong drafted email. I'm telling you, for an internship or for a job, if you cannot even grammatically write, draft an email and send it to us, please be sure that that application has already gone into a waste box. We're not looking at it. Somebody who can't give it a thought while applying for an internship and a job will not be thoughtful while doing a work. I'm giving you really a tip that we look at it, right? That's the first thing. We have given internship to people who have not come from any known universities, right? Not have done many internships. But because you read their email, you read their CV, you can see the diligence in which what they have and is what a senior requires. Training we all have gone through. What we learn in a law school is very different from the training which we learn on the job, and that we're ready to train them. But they should be ready to accept that training. That is what is important.
So to build on to Nikki's story, I think in the first 6 months of joining Amachal Mahadas, as it was back then, I had put together this very well-researched article on, very well-researched legal opinion on a particular point that we were working on. The only thing that was incorrect or that was off place in this opinion was the last two words in that entire 4-page memo, which were in Times New Roman 12, while the rest of it was in Times New Roman 11. My boss calls me to her desk and she goes, after reading the memo, she said, "This is utter trash. I would not wish that my enemy also would have to go through this entire memo of yours." And I'm like, why? What's wrong with the memo? It's on point. It has all the case laws to defend our argument. It builds a proper narrative. It has all the key components that you need to, sort of present this and get done with it. Right? It's like the last two words are in Times New Roman 12. Unless you fix that and unless you are consistent, I will not read this memo. It may be the best memo out there, but I am not going to read this memo. So that's my anecdote about being particular, being very thorough with what you're doing, right? I mean, look, we all understand that, nobody is 100%, nobody is perfect, right? But that being said, one needs to be diligent, one needs to take into account even the smallest of small elements before, turning in a document or whatever, because that is your first impression, effectively, right? What you're putting out there. One needs to be particular.
Just to build on that also, that honestly, like there's so much available in law schools online on how to write an email or how to write a message to someone. Also now, it was not as popular back then, but now everyone's available on LinkedIn. You can just reach out to someone on LinkedIn for guidance, mentorship. And maybe if you reach out to 10 people, maybe 3 respond, but that's how you build. Like you have to apply to 20 places to maybe get into 2. Or reach out to 50 people to speak to 10. But then that kind of effort has to come from you to be able to like just basic Google, like how to write an email. Like I'm sure everyone's taught in school, but even if you don't know like how to write an email, look it up and you can always have proper grammar, proper English, and not say a lot of CVs that I've come across say repetitive things in the same field of experience. After every 2 lines, it's the same thing. Keep it concise. Even if you've just done 2 things in your internship, or even if you know 2 things, if you know it properly and there are no mistakes, I'll take you like as an intern. But if you say the same things and 10% of 100 things, maybe not. Just know 2 things 100% instead of knowing 100 things 10%.
I think that is ChatGPT answer for that it keeps on repeating the same in different words.
So we would know that it's not come from you. Like, I mean, just like it's that everyone knows that this exists and this is where you've taken it from. So you're not very clever doing it.
So let me check if we have any questions. We can take those now. Okay, so there's a question for Riddhi, and uh, they are asking like, how do you keep yourself informed about the trends in technology?
You will have to keep reading. That's the only thing. Like, be updated. There are a lot of legal blogs online. A lot of like she said, there's Manupatra SCC, and of course, if you're a law student, a lawyer, you have to like at least keep it in. Everyone's posting on LinkedIn. There's a lot of blogs that are writing continuously on what new judgments are coming, on what new policy is coming up, or maybe if you're like me, maybe follow like a Métis or a Office of Copyright, Office of Trademark for what they're updating on their website. Of course, in law firms, there are people who do this, like keep track of what comes in, so that comes to our inbox. But as a law student, read up on LinkedIn, follow people who practice in tech, in AI, in copyright, or so they keep posting about it, they keep writing articles on it. Follow those people, follow those blogs specifically, like a Spicy IP or your A&M Global or an AZB. Like every law firm writes these articles on an upcoming law or an upcoming trend or an upcoming judgment or what you can expect out of something. So that's the only way to do it. There's no shortcut in doing it, that you keep a pop-up of top 10 things that have come this month. So that is not giving you any kind of knowledge. You'll just read like a heading that, okay, maybe the DPDP came into force, but you don't really know what happened, what went around it, or government is planning to make an legislation around on regulating AI. But what is happening into it, you'll have to go on and read that article, follow people who practice in that field. And it's very easy nowadays to follow people on LinkedIn generally. So you can do that.
There's one more question. So somebody is asking, like, is it necessary to do CS if they want to do a corporate law or choose that as a career?
Not really, Jitna. Not at all. I mean, I don't have a CS degree, but I do practice corporate law and I know secretarial work as well as a CS would. So that's okay. There's no need. There's no hard and fast. It's a great add-on. It's somewhat like an old school approach to being a corporate lawyer, but it's not necessary.
Also, then in which year should they decide to take up corporate law? Which is the
Which year?
correct year?
Which year? Again, okay,
In the
that's a
5
very
years.
no, that's a very specific question, Chetna. I mean, there is no right answer to this. It depends on the person's personality and what they really like. And I would suggest to any up and coming lawyer in this day and age at law school, saying please do not decide a subject until you've really gotten out of law school, right? Because what you study in law school is reading the law in a sense. It is not applying the law. So get out there, apply the law, and then choose whether you're made out for a corporate or a finance or arbitration or whatever it is. I mean, it's too early to decide in law school.
Okay. Then somebody is asking if LLM in IP technology will help them post graduation.
You should just do your LLB first and figure out what you need to do. And to add on to Shashank's point, when you're in law school, you don't really know what you want to do. So maybe intern. I know that everyone gets a lot of time off, 2 months, 3 months, whenever you get time off, go intern, see who can take you, who can mentor you, who can give you work. And don't just do an internship for it to be there on your CV to say that, okay, I interned here. Go learn and try and do some work, even if it's a independent lawyer and not necessarily a big law firm, because you need to know the work more than having, like, definitely big name on your CV helps, but after that, after getting your CV and seeing that you've interned at a CAM or an AZB, I'll interview you, right? And I will get to know that you didn't really do anything. It's there for paper, like on paper. So you should first focus on getting work experience before thinking about doing a master's degree. And because a specialization comes in after you've decided and you've had enough experience in that field to know that, okay, you want to be there. But as a law student, new, fresh law student in law school, you don't really know what you want to do. And we're just here talking about corporate ADR and IP. There's 100 other things that you can do. There's a capital market, and there's employment, there's just fintech, and there's so many new laws with new products coming in that you can really practice in, and it's very, very specialized. So figure out what you want to work in by doing. That's my only way. I feel like do so many internships that you want to take time off in law school thinking that, oh, it's 8 months, 10 months I've studied, so I need these 2 months off. I would say that go do those internship in those 2 months, because that's actually what will drive your career rather than the 10 months in law school.
Absolutely.
Chetna, may I add on to that question, right? Specifically about LLM. So, like Riddhi rightly pointed out, I think law school is the time one should actually go out there and, understand what all is available and experiment with internships in terms of not only like streamlining or straitjacketing yourself to a certain type of internship, but do multiple internships which sort of give you a flavor of what all is available, right? That is one. Secondly, in terms of LLM, right? I've done my LLM, but I did my LLM 4 years. I mean, after 3 years of practicing a law at Amachan, right? That was because I think when you get some sort of a sense of what one needs to upskill in, what one needs to sort of, do in terms of your LLM, right? Like when I was doing, I've predominantly been doing like corporate law for as long as I can remember. But as I said, the first 20 months was in finance, and it is after that that I figured that, okay, given that we have these foreign clients who we are dealing with on a regular basis, not necessary that we are attuned to their cultural sensitivities at all points, is when I decided that to take up a LLM, and I did my LLM in comparative corporate laws, which compares corporate laws, say in a Commonwealth jurisdiction to a jurisdiction which is civil law jurisdiction, etc., and maybe even Sharia laws at times. And I think Riddhi can attest to this in the sense that the way we look at copyright or we look at IP in India versus how civil law jurisdictions look at IP and copyright are two very different things. So when you're looking to do your LLM also, don't go to one of those, or think about what is the kind of LLM or what is it that you want to derive from the program as well, right? You can't be thinking of it as, hey, I'm just going to add this to my CV. An LLM is a lot more. An LLM, in a sense, is about networking. An LLM, in a sense, is also about learning different laws in different countries, maybe, or adding to your existing skill set. That's how one should also. That's also something that one should think about while considering LLM. See, at the end of the day, let me be very honest with you. After doing your LLM or not doing your LLM, if you do come back to a law firm, you're effectively going to start reviewing law. But LLM is something that you may want to take under for a value add to yourself. And if that is what you're looking at an LLM as, I think one should think about an LLM, not necessarily jump into it straight out of college just to add on to the CV.
Yeah. So now I agree with
One
Riddhi.
question which I've answered, I mean, I've tried to answer some of the questions while my panelists were speaking, and somebody asked a question that is reading important for a lawyer. I'll only tell you one thing: read, read, and read, and write, write, and write. There is no other substitute. Law is all about assimilating as much information as you can and then applying it to your given scenario, whether it's corporate law or whether it's disputes. It doesn't really matter. If you don't enjoy reading, this is not your field, for sure.
So I agree with Riddhi. She had mentioned that these are the not only specialization that we offer, and these are just not these, only I would say specializations or new age subject, but there are other subjects also, like capital markets and fintech and sports law. And we are still going to, discuss about entertainment and media and financial. So we are going to do another webinar for the audience, and we are going to discuss in that webinar if betting in cricket is okay, or playing fantasy Premier League, legality of that, and the OTT regulations, then SEBI laws and Heidelberg saga. We are going to discuss all this in our upcoming webinar. So please stay tuned. And I would like to thank all our speakers for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us today. And this was such an inspiring, to listening to you. And thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to audience also. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Chetna, for having us.
Yeah.
Okay.